it's Amber and I'm here to do this week's story time. You might have noticed that I wasn't around last week at all. I didn't upload any content last week, and that was totally not planned. It was something that kind of happened because of the events that unfolded last week that I could not have foreseen and that I was not prepared for. So I was gonna tell you guys kind of the horrifying story of my week last week. And hopefully you'll understand why there was no content on this channel last week at all. So most of you guys who follow my channel probably know that Tuesday last week was the World of Warcraft release. There was a lot of stress leading up to that release, and for the most part, I felt pretty good about it until I found out like 2 days before the release that once again, my husband was going to be out of town on a business trip the morning after the release, which is always the time that we pack and ship orders. And this seems to happen like every time there's a release, and we both hate it. My husband feels terrible. I don't like it either because we both know that the pregnant lady is gonna be packing and shipping orders by herself, and that sucks. So the release went okay. Not everyone got to score what they wanted, but people were generally understanding, and it was good. I get up the next morning really early, I start packing and shipping orders, my husband leaves for the airport, and I end up getting everything all packed and shipped by like around noon on Tuesday, and I could not believe it. That never happens. And then, maybe just like a few hours after I had finished packing and shipping the last orders, my son is sitting in my lap, we're kind of like hanging out in the living room together, and he turns and he looks at me like deeply into my eyes and then just projectile vomits in my face, like in my mouth. I don't know, I guess I mouth breathe. I had my mouth open, vomit in my mouth, in my hair, all over my shirt, and I'm looking at him like, oh my God, what just happened? My son wasn't even really one to spit up much as a baby, so I'm not very familiar with this, and especially not the Exorcist style of vomit that happened there. So while I'm staring at him in disbelief, more comes out. And the thing about a frightened toddler when they're vomiting is that they want to be clinging to you and like looking at you as they vomit, so it's all coming out on me and I'm frozen. I finally, you kind of like pick them up like this, and you go and you sit them down in the kitchen because we have hardwood floors in there, and he just keeps on. It's like it won't stop. I finally get him all cleaned up. I go to the Chatorama on Facebook, which is like kind of where I hang out for most social media now. It's a Sensible Mama chat group. I'll link it down below. But so I asked the ladies there, I'm like, I think my son has a stomach bug. What do I do? How long is it gonna last? And so people pretty much reassured me that what's going around right now is a 24-hour bug. He's gonna throw up for half of that 24 hours, and then he's gonna have diarrhea for the rest of it. And I was like, oh, how fun that sounds. So by the time I'm getting some of these answers on the Chatorama, my son has another vomiting episode. Now, I have windows that are all across the back of my kitchen right here, and all of them were open because it was a beautiful day. And there, sometime, like at some point during the day when I didn't notice, there were construction workers that were like past our property, but they're working on a new development in the neighborhood behind us. And I mean, they're not far enough away that they couldn't conceivably see inside of my kitchen, but I'm not aware of any of this at the time. So my son starts throwing up, and of course it's all over me. I've already changed clothes twice now. It's all over me, and he wants like a big hug because now he's really, really upset that he's been throwing up so much and he wants comfort. So like I don't want to hug my son and hold him while I'm covered in his vomit. So I do the only thing I know to do. I just strip naked and I'm holding my son in the kitchen. and I look at the window and I suddenly realize there are all of these men, and I'm like standing here holding my toddler who won't let go of me, naked, with the windows open, and men like not too far outside of my window. And it's one of those moments as a mom where you're just like, this is just how it's gonna be today. I don't know what else to do. Because these windows, they go all the way across the downstairs of my house. There's pretty much no way to get out of the windows without going upstairs, and at that moment my son did not need me jostling him up the stairs. So I mean, I'm sure you moms can relate. Maybe you haven't been in that exact situation, but it was one of those where you just throw in the towel. You're like, hey guys, what up? We got stuff going on here, sorry. So we go through maybe about 8 total times of him projectile vomiting, and it finally seems like it's stopping. So I call my husband. I hadn't wanted to interrupt him and let him know what was going on because I knew he was gonna be stressed out with business. So when I finally got a hold of him that night, I told him the whole story and I said, but everything seems okay now. I'm getting ready to give him a bath and put him to bed. So I take my son upstairs, I undress him, I get him in the bathtub. I finally get him all clean. I'm pretty sure I have all the vomit off of him. And I turn around to grab the towel and I hear this like splush. Like, I won't call it a splash, it was a splush. And I look down and the diarrhea has kicked in. Inside of the bathtub. All over his toys, all over him. And he's standing there like, what now, Mom? And I'm like, son, I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know what to do now. Yes, so, you know, I get him out of the tub and like put him in the sink and get him the rest of the way clean in the sink. I've now got vomit all over in the downstairs, all over the couch, the carpet, and the kitchen floor. I now have diarrhea all over the inside of the bathtub and every one of his hundreds of little bath time toys. And I'm just thinking, let me just get this kid to bed. Once he's in bed, I'll go ahead and I'll clean all of this up and we'll be done. So of course I take him to bed, and the minute I lay him down in his crib, he vomits all over the place again. So now I have the nursery to clean up too, and I can't get him to bed until I get that nursery cleaned up. So I've got a screaming, vomiting toddler who I'm trying to comfort while I'm also trying to clean up the vomit out of his crib. I do eventually get him into bed and happy and content. I checked on him like every 20 minutes after that because I was so afraid that he was going to vomit in his sleep. Thankfully, he slept through the night and all was well. So the next morning we get up and he seems like he's doing a little better. My husband is on his way home. I knew he was gonna be home like around 3 o'clock, and so I am just exhausted emotionally and physically. And I'm honestly ready for my husband to get home and tap in so that I can tap out and just take a break. My husband finally gets home. We're both so happy to see him. And about an hour after he walked in the door, my vomiting started. So here we go. Reset the clock. We have another 24 hours of stomach bug in this house. So thankfully my husband was there. He takes care of my son for pretty much the entire 24 hours that I was sick. And when I finally get better, we start thinking to ourselves like, okay, he was out of town while Roman and I were sick. Chances are he's not going to get sick. This is behind us. And then maybe about 4 hours after that conclusion hit my mind, my husband got the stomach bug. So now, he's exhausted from travel and 24 hours of solo care for our toddler, and now he's sick. I have had the World of Warcraft release, packing and shipping, taking care of a sick toddler, taking care of myself being sick, and now my husband is sick and I have the toddler by myself. And so, like, and that whole cycle went from Tuesday to Saturday. It wasn't until Saturday night, I think, when all of us kind of started feeling better. But it's interesting how things change from when you're single or when you're married and don't have kids, I guess, to when you're married with children. Because I can remember, you know, the first few years of our marriage, when we didn't have kids, and when one of us was sick, it was all about taking care of each other, bringing each other soup and fluffing their pillow and blankets and just what can I get for you, and you know, really, really pouring out your love and your servanthood on your spouse. And it turns out when you have a child, sometimes the best way that you can care for your spouse when they're sick is to just take care of the kid and release them from the mental burden of worrying about the kids and what they've got going on and if they're okay, if they're taken care of. So that was an adjustment for us, realizing like, hey, I kind of have to fight this sickness alone because someone has to be with the baby. And I really do think that this would have been the perfect storm for a lot of really bad fights between me and my husband. But thankfully, through God's grace, we both managed to be more sympathetic for each other than we were for ourselves. And I'll say for me personally, that's not that's not natural to me. Usually I'm the person who's pitying myself, feeling sorry for my own situation, and not really having the mental awareness of what other people are coping with when I'm sick. So, you know, all around I was really thankful and just appreciative that God gave us grace through that situation and helped us not self-destruct. But more than anything, I'm thankful that it's over. If your family is gonna get hit with this bug, I am so sorry. It is living hell. Like, I'm not even kidding, it is such hell. But it only lasts 24 hours, so I mean, you can get through 24 hours of just about anything, I think. So, you know, good luck to you if you have that coming your way. I think that's about it. This has gotten to be a long video, so I'm gonna have a long editing session after this to make it short. But I do plan on having my regular content back up on my channel this week. I know that I'll at least have a 5 Ways Wednesday. I do have a lot of work from the Sensible Mama to catch up on from last week, so I may not get to my other content, but I will for sure have a 5 Ways Wednesday, so be looking for that. I hope you guys have a great week. I hope it's a healthy week. I hope it's a blessed week, and I will see you on Wednesday. Bye-bye.